Trapped in darkness, the rescue of Morris Baetzold became one of the most amazing survival stories ever told. Imagine being stuck in a space so tight you can't move your arms, so narrow that every breath is a struggle, so dark that you can't see your own hands. And worst of all, you're upside down, slowly making you dizzy and confused. In 2009, you may have heard of something similar happening about the Nutty Putty Cave incident. A man named John Edward Jones experienced this nightmare in that cave in Utah. The tunnel was barely 10 inches wide, about the size of a small pizza. He was trapped upside down for more than 24 hours while rescuers tried everything to save him. Despite their best efforts, John died in that dark, lonely place. His body remains there to this day, with the cave sealed shut like a tomb. Now imagine that same terrible fear, but happening to a 15-year-old boy. In 1965, a teenager named Morris Baetzold went into a cave called Wildcat Cave near Cleveland, Ohio. He was young, skinny, and full of the spirit of adventure that makes teenagers feel invincible. But one wrong turn changed everything for Morris. Just like John would do decades later, Morris slid into a tiny crack and got stuck. Upside down, in the cold, in the dark, with seemingly no way out. No one could hear his screams. He couldn't move his arms. Every breath was harder than the last as the rock pressed against his chest. The weight of Earth itself seemed to be squeezing the life out of him. But unlike John's story, Morris's tale would have a different ending. What happened next became one of the most amazing rescues in Ohio history. A brave and fast-moving effort that had the whole country watching and hoping he would make it out alive. The Cave and the Boy, in Cleveland's Hinckley Reservation, there was a mysterious opening in the hillside called Wildcat Cave. Its rocky entrance looked like a giant open mouth in the sandstone cliff, calling to adventurous souls. Local kids had explored it for generations, drawn by its dark passages and hidden chambers. Some even claimed the cave had once been part of the Underground Railroad, hiding people escaping slavery on their journey north to freedom in Canada. On that fateful October day in 1965, 15-year-old Morris Baetzold, a skinny boy, about 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighing only 108 pounds, felt the pull of the cave once again. As he rode past it on a yellow school bus, looking out the window at the familiar hills, he saw another chance for adventure. This time, he planned to go deeper into the cave than he ever had before. Morris wasn't supposed to be at the cave that day at all. He and 15 other kids from the Methodist Children's Home in Berea, along with 3 teachers, were actually scheduled to visit Schönbrunn Village, a historic site. But fate stepped in when their bus got a flat tire on the road. Because of this unexpected problem, they had to change plans quickly and ended up at the nearby park in Medina County instead. Seeing this unexpected opportunity, Morris and 2 of his friends decided to slip away and explore Wildcat Cave. The boys had been there before, but they always wanted to see what was around the next bend, what secrets the darkness might be hiding. With excitement and a touch of nervousness, Morris and his friends approached the cave opening. The autumn air was chilly, with temperatures hovering just above freezing. Dead leaves crunched under their shoes as they walked toward the dark mouth of the cave. None of them had proper equipment. No helmets, no ropes, no flashlights. Just teenage confidence and curiosity. The boys crawled past a large slanted rock where the cave entrance narrowed dramatically to about 12 inches wide, just the width of a ruler. The sandstone walls felt rough against their hands and knees. Sharp rocks cut into Morris's skin as he pushed forward, but he kept going, driven by determination and the thrill of exploration. Then Morris made a decision that would change his life. At a fork in the passage, instead of going straight ahead with his friends, he turned left into an even narrower crack. It wasn't really a path at all, just a tight space between rocks that seemed to lead somewhere new. His friends continued on their normal route, not noticing that Morris had gone a different way. Now separated from his companions, Morris kept crawling downward at a slight angle. The beams of afternoon sunlight from the entrance faded behind him until he was in complete darkness. He didn't know he had gone the wrong way. As he moved forward using just his legs to push himself along, the space got tighter and tighter with each foot. A feeling of unease began to grow in his stomach, but he pushed it aside. Soon he reached a section where huge boulders pressed in from both sides. He took a deep breath, making himself as small as possible, and slid into the crack. He thought maybe the main cave was just beyond this tight spot. But suddenly, a rock shifted slightly and squeezed him even tighter. He tried to keep moving forward, but the pressure only increased. Then, he hit a dead end. Solid rock blocked his path completely. Morris tried to back up, but it was too late. He was now trapped upside down, about 60 feet underground, in total darkness. Anytime he struggled or moved, the rock seemed to squeeze him harder, as if the cave itself was trying to keep him. He couldn't use his arms at all. They were pinned to his sides. Breathing became harder with each passing minute as the pressure on his chest increased, and no one could hear him yell for help. Who was Morris? So who was this boy now fighting for his life in the darkness? Morris Baetzold was just a regular teenager who had already faced many challenges in his young life. When he was only 5 years old, his parents went through a difficult divorce. Morris and his older brother Donald were sent to live in a foster home at the Methodist Children's Home. Despite this tough start, the brothers remained close and dreamed of starting a business together someday when they grew up. Morris was generally quiet and sensitive. He had started smoking cigarettes at age 13, like many teenagers in the 1960s. The cave was actually a favorite hiding spot for kids trying to smoke away from the watchful eyes of adults. Morris had been inside Wildcat Cave several times before, and even once got accidentally left behind by his friends, though he found his way out without problems that time. Now, those previous adventures seemed like nothing compared to his current situation. As minutes turned into hours, Morris began to wonder if he would ever see daylight again. The alarm is raised 2 hours after he went into the cave. Morris's friends finally realized he was missing. Worried, they told one of their teachers, William Powell. Powell was a responsible adult who immediately understood the seriousness of the situation. He was about the same size as Morris, so he volunteered to go into the cave to search for the missing boy. Even with directions from the other boys, it was extremely difficult to navigate the dark, twisting passages. Finally, after crawling through several narrow spaces, Powell and the boys followed the sound of Morris's faint voice to a narrow crack in the rock. Powell could see Morris's feet in the dim light, but the space was far too small for him to reach the trapped boy. He could only talk to Morris and try to keep him calm from about 10 feet away. "I'm stuck bad," Morris called out, his voice shaking. "I can't move at all." Powell tried to reassure him. "We're going to get help, Morris. Just stay calm and keep talking to us." As soon as he realized how serious the situation was, Powell sent one of the boys to call for emergency help. Within an hour, firefighters from the Hinckley Fire Department arrived, led by Chief Paul Chodera. They quickly assessed the situation and tried the most obvious solution first, pulling Morris out with hooks and a belt. But when they tried to pull, the belt broke, and Morris slid even deeper into the crack, making his situation even worse. It was becoming clear that this rescue would be far more complicated than anyone had initially thought. As word spread about the trapped boy, more help arrived. They brought in a portable generator to power lights inside the cave. They gave Morris oxygen through a thin tube to help him breathe in the tight space. They used small electric heaters to fight the cold. Temperatures inside the cave were close to freezing, and hypothermia was becoming a serious concern. Some people suggested drilling through the stone from above to reach Morris, but experts from a local quarry warned that could cause the cave to collapse. Using explosives was also considered but deemed too dangerous. They would have to find another way. As night fell, a huge crowd gathered outside the cave. Over 200 people, including rescue workers, family members, and newspaper reporters. Local clubs and organizations brought hot coffee, sandwiches, and blankets for the rescuers and family members. The story quickly made headlines across the country, and it was even featured on national television news. Local radio stations broadcast urgent appeals for help from small-sized volunteers who might be able to reach Morris in the tight space. One person who answered the call was a nurse named Evelyn Pinky Pettit. Standing only 5'2" and weighing just 85 pounds, she drove all the way from Akron to help. Pinky bravely crawled into the cave and managed to get within 5 feet of Morris. Although she couldn't quite reach him, she stayed there for 3 hours, talking to him and providing comfort. "You're going to be okay, honey," she told him. "We've got lots of people working to get you out." Meanwhile, an experienced caver named Terry Brown arrived and created a pulley system with a metal ring attached to the cave roof. Rescuers pulled with all their might, but Morris only moved a few inches before getting stuck again. The long night. All through the night, people worked in shifts to keep Morris's spirits up. They asked him questions about school and his hobbies. They made jokes to distract him from his fear. They had him count numbers to stay awake and alert. They even promised him a big steak dinner if he made it out. A powerful motivation for a hungry teenage boy. "What's the first thing you want to do when you get out?" one rescuer asked. "Eat a hamburger," Morris replied weakly, "and never go in a cave again." As the hours passed, Morris drifted in and out of consciousness. His voice grew fainter. The rock continued to press against his chest, making each breath more difficult than the last. His body temperature was dropping despite the heaters. Time was running out. Hope arrives. By the next morning, Morris had been stuck upside down for 24 long hours. He was growing weaker with each passing hour. The situation was becoming desperate. Then came new hope. The U.S. Air Force flew in cave rescue experts from the National Speleological Society in Washington, D.C. These specialists had experience with similar rescue operations across the country. At the same time, a local machinist named Curtis Peck and his uncle Paul came up with an ingenious plan. They would tie strong ropes around Morris's body, pour slippery glycerin on him to reduce friction, and pull him out using a specially designed board for support. 2 dedicated firefighters, Jim and Robert Howd, helped build the harness straps according to the Peck's design. But there was still one big problem: how to get the ropes around Morris in such a tight space. The rescuers needed someone small enough to reach him. A young hero steps forward. That's when another teenager stepped up to help. 15-year-old Eagle Scout Michael Ulrich. He was about the same size as Morris and immediately volunteered when he heard about the situation. "I can fit in there," Michael said simply. "I want to help." After a brief safety explanation, Michael crawled into the narrow crack. Inch by inch, he squeezed through the same passage that had trapped Morris. When he finally reached the stuck boy, Michael could see how serious the situation was. Morris was pale, his lips had a bluish tint, and his eyes were barely open. With remarkable calm for a teenager, Michael managed to tie ropes around Morris's arms and legs. "I threw a rope on him and he pulled it over his arms," Michael explained later. "Before that, I tied a rope to one ankle and then both legs." Once the ropes were secure, Michael carefully backed out of the tight space to let the rescuers do their work. With the ropes firmly attached, the rescue team began pulling with careful, steady pressure. Morris slipped a few times, causing everyone to hold their breath in fear. But they kept trying, adjusting the angles and tension on the ropes. Finally, after several tense minutes, Morris began to move. Inch by painful inch, he slid backward out of the deadly crack that had held him for more than a day. When his body finally came free, a huge cheer erupted from the crowd outside. Rescuers quickly wrapped Morris in warm blankets and carried him out of the cave on a stretcher. The bright afternoon sunlight, something Morris had feared he might never see again, made him blink and turn his head away. The waiting crowd clapped and cheered as he was carefully loaded into an ambulance. A rescuer named Miles Lee, who helped carry Morris out, was overcome with emotion. "An ordinary person would have given up or died by now," he said, wiping tears from his face. "I'm not a crybaby. It's just a really good feeling to see him alive." Aftermath. At Southwest General Hospital, doctors treated Morris for exhaustion, dehydration, numerous cuts and bruises, and mild hypothermia. Despite his ordeal, he had no serious or permanent injuries. A miracle considering he had been stuck upside down for so long. After resting, Morris ate a big meal, including that promised hamburger, and personally thanked everyone who had helped save his life. When they couldn't get the ropes to me at first, I thought I was a goner, he admitted from his hospital bed. I was really scared. I thought it was hopeless. When a reporter asked if he would ever go into a cave again, Morris shook his head firmly. Not me, not for a long time. In the days that followed, park officials took drastic action to prevent similar accidents. They used dynamite to destroy the back portion of Wildcat Cave and sealed the entrance with thick concrete so no one else could ever get trapped there again. For his extraordinary bravery, Michael Ulrich received the Bronze Medal of Honor from the Carnegie Hero Fund Commission, a prestigious award given to civilians who risk their lives to save others. Life goes on today. Morris Baetzold would be about 74 years old. While there aren't any recent photos or interviews with him, the dramatic rescue remains one of the most amazing examples of teamwork, courage, and never giving up in the face of seemingly impossible odds. But remember, no adventure is worth your life. Always explore with proper equipment, experienced guides, and let someone know where you're going. So, if you enjoyed this incredible rescue story, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more fascinating survival stories and historical events that time forgot.